Good day, everyone. It's another webinar and another episode of the Yaba Voice Day. No, it's usually a beautiful day where we have outings like this, and we're quite excited to welcome you to yet another episode of the Yaba Voice webinar. How are you doing? I hope you're coping well. I hope you're doing fine. And then it's the International Women's Month. No, it's a day for us, and it's a day to celebrate ourselves. Oh, we'll allow the men also to be celebrated. So you're welcome, everyone, to this webinar. I want to hand over to the medical director who will formally welcome us to this webinar. Over to you, Dr. Lubinga Adekile.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kemi Akintoyese. And I want to appreciate you for the good work that you have been doing. Good afternoon, everyone, or good morning, or good evening, wherever you are in different parts of the world. I welcome you to this special edition of webinar by Yaba Voice for the third month in the year 2024, which is mainly based on women affairs. As you all know, Yaba Voice is a platform for mental health education, advocacy, and community outreach. It is a social media platform of Federal Neuropsychiatric Hospital Yaba Lagos, through which the hospital creates awareness and educates the populace on topical mental health issues. Today's topic is women's emotional stability, the bias, the trauma, and the distress. And to introduce today's topic, we all know that women display their emotions in natural and healthy ways, rather than bottling them up and having outbursts. So there seems to be a major social factor at play here. Women's socializing plays a very important role in bringing in this stability. However, there are some social, psychological, and biological factors that may affect their emotional stability. Therefore, in today's webinar, we discuss how to navigate the bias, the trauma, and the distress that they go through. In addition, we shall examine the risk factors that may compromise their emotional stability and how to prevent them. To address this issue today are mental health experts and erudite scholars in the house. The first on the list in today's presentation is Dr. Oluwashikemi Alalade. Dr. Alalade is a consultant psychiatrist at the Federal Neuropsychiatric Hospital, Yaba Lagos. She studied medicine and surgery at the University of Ilorin, Kwara State, while she had a residency training at Federal Neuropsychiatric Hospital, Yaba Lagos, where she bagged the fellowship of the West African College of Physicians in Psychiatry. She doubles as a public health expert with a master's degree in public health from Ahmadu Bello University, Nigeria. She is passionate about women, passionate about children and adolescents, and she enjoys preaching the gospel of mental health all over the world with the aim of normalizing the conversation and building mental health stability in the community. She's happily married to a consultant psychiatrist and blessed with 2 children. The next presenter today is Bushola Olamuyiwa, a consultant clinical psychologist with the following qualifications: Masters of Science in Applied Psychology from Psychological Society of Ireland, Dublin. She also holds Bachelor's of Arts, honors in psychology from the Psychological Society of Ireland, okay, and diploma in cognitive behavioral therapy, also from Dublin. and the British Psychological Society. Busola has over 13 years experience as a consultant, a researcher, and clinical psychologist working extensively with individuals within Nigeria and Ireland. She has worked with individuals at Square Sharing, Ballymun, Dublin, Ireland, the Learning Place, Lekki, and has also held talks on mental health engagement at schools and various organizations. She is vast in interventional, diagnostic, and therapeutic psychology in both private and public practice, in family, in organizational, in clinical, and other settings. She employs intervention that build coping skills, resilience, self-esteem, and other life skills using well-researched and modern psychological principles. Emphasis is placed on learning core values that are self-protective against common stressors, bullying and cyberbullying, harassment, grief, and separation counseling, negative social media influence, stress, and negative peer influence. She has expertise in cognitive and in behavioral management of depression, anxiety, burnout, emotional issues, behavioral issues, stress management, sexual abuse, sleep problems, and neurological stroke developmental disorders like autism, attention deficit hyperactivity disorders, and other related problems, including support for parents and caregivers of affected children. In addition to her subspecialization in child and adolescent psychology, she has expertise in organizational psychology and management of job-related psychological dynamics. Ladies and gentlemen, you can see that the house is loaded with experts this morning. I want you to kindly relax and listen to our mental expert as we promise you a rewarding session in today's webinar. Thank you. Over to you, Kemi Akitoyese.
Thank you, Medical Director, for that arousing welcome. The Medical Director had introduced the concept that we are talking about to us today. And we're looking at women's emotional stability. In the midst of all that we are going through in the world, how can we remain stable? I don't know. There's so much to talk about today, really. And when we're looking at how to navigate the biases, how do we navigate the trauma? How do we deal with the distresses that tends to abound in our home, in our family, in our workplace? There's so many challenges that are out there. And again, it's the International Women's Day. And the theme for this year is Inspire Inclusion. And so we're going to look at all of this together, vis-a-vis emotional stability and how to do it. Please remember that you can send us comments and questions on the chat box, and then we will attend to them. If you're not able to join us via this platform, you can link up with the Facebook page of the Yaba Voice. Yaba Voice, one word on Facebook. You can also connect with us, and then you would be watching live. And if there's anybody that needs to connect with us here on this platform, please just send them the link and send them a soft reminder that we had started. They need to hear this directly from the horse's mouth, like it's been said. The experts are ready, and then we are good to go. Now, Dr. Oluwashikemi Alalade will kickstart this conversation for us, and she will be talking to us about what is emotional stability. When we're talking about emotional stability in itself, what exactly are we talking about? Over to you, Dr. Alalade.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much. So let me start with appreciating my medical director for giving me this opportunity to be here today. Thank you very much. And I say thank you to Dr. Kemi Akintoyeshe for moderating this program. Thank you so much. And I also want to recognize the presence of my friend, Mrs. Busola Olamuyiwa, on this platform. Thank you to all who have tuned into this program. So, like as it has been said, there are so many things that we have to talk about as regards women, but we are looking at emotional stability in women. So, to give an introduction to this concept of emotional stability in women, we'll start by talking about emotions. Emotions are expressed as feelings. So we talk about feelings in terms of I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm angry, I'm not I'm angry, I'm sad, I'm not happy. You know, when people have different things, express these emotions as feelings. Now, when we talk about an emotionally stable woman is a woman who can recognize these feelings, knows the feelings to act on, knows the feelings not to act on, so that she can balance her perspective of life. Because it is events that happen in life that our emotions react to. So when we get to a point of stability, we are able to know the events to react to, the events to not react to, and put in a balance to it. And like the medical director said, we already know that women are more emotionally expressive than men. So it is very important that we talk about this concept of emotional stability in women. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Olalade. You know, she just opened up a very huge thing in my mind. And that's the fact that, you know, when she said emotions to act on, and I can remember that sometimes you would not act or you are keeping quiet, all of your own, you are staying. Somebody would not just say something very small like this. It will just trigger. At that point, you cannot even remember which one am I expected to act on again. We will come back, because you have to tell us, how do we know the one that we will act on and then the one we will not act on? Me, I need it, because I know that sometimes when you have bottled it up, I've tried. Okay, you're a psychologist, you don't need to talk. You are, at one point, something very small like this, you just brah. By the time you finish yourself, you will know that you shouldn't have acted this way. But let's just continue this conversation. We are coming back to you. Okay, so let's look at the factors that affect women's emotional stability. Mrs. Busola, please let's look at what are those factors. So maybe I would even get my answer before you finish. All right, over to you.
All right. Good morning, everyone. All protocols observed. I would like to thank you, Dr. Akintoye, for having me on this platform. Of course, I recognize the presence of the medical director, Dr. Weye, and my very good friend. It's so amazing that we are both anchoring this today. It's such a privilege. We've worked together on some projects together. Dr. Mrs. Olalade, I call her Dr. Mrs. So thank you all for having me this morning. So factors that affect emotional stability in women can be, and this can be affected by various factors. And I think I want to discuss it in what Dr. Uwe has sort of already talked about, the biocycle, and I would just add one more, the spiritual influences. For me, I believe that we need to look at these four critical aspects so that we get a more holistic understanding of the impacts of these influences on women. The reason why I added the spiritual influence, because in working in Nigeria, the spiritual path is a very big and major part for a lot of people. So I'll start with the biological factors. You know, we have hormonal fluctuations, changes in estrogen and progesterone levels during menstrual cycle is something that causes a lot of mood swings and emotional irritability. And I know that we've talked and a lot of conversations have gone into this, but we cannot emphasize how the menstrual cycle impacts on a woman. You know, so we cannot separate that from, you know, the long-term effects of a mental health condition on a woman. I want to talk about changes that happen in pregnancy as well. And I think this is important because this is something that I could resonate with. The first time that I ever felt depressed in my life was during my first pregnancy. I was so down and under because, you know, as we all know, pregnancy is supposed to be such a good time for a lot of us. You know, you're expecting your first child and, you know, you're bubbling with a lot of positive emotion, especially the first time that you find out that you're pregnant. But yes, the few weeks was fine. And then here comes the morning sickness and all the changes that was going on in my body physiologically that was now impacting on my emotional well-being. And this period for me was a very tough time, you know, and that was the first time that I was like, I turned to my mom and I was like, Mom, how come you never told me this part? And she was just like, she just watered it down. Don't worry, it's normal. It's just what women go through. but I was literally spiraling. The whole first trimester was very difficult for me. And the only good thing, I think what helped me through that period and how I could regulate my emotion was, thankfully, my younger sister was pregnant almost around the same time as me. So having that emotional support, someone to discuss the things that we were both going through, sort of helped to stabilize my emotion. But here comes my second pregnancy, and again comes depression. And I remember towards the end of the pregnancy, I literally asked my auntie to drive me to the gynae ward, because I know that if I spoke to my mom, she's going to be like, you're crazy. And this was at maybe 35 weeks. And I got to my gynae, sat down in front of him, completely broken down. And I'm like, I'm ready for you guys to take out my baby. And the gynae sat in front of me, literally pleading with me. And then he recognized, he said, I think at this point, you're just completely exhausted, and then they had to look for another intervention to help me. And these are things that we don't talk enough about. We just talk about pregnancy as this great, fantastic thing, but this has a lot of impact on women. Pre-pregnancy, post-pregnancy, we've all heard of postpartum depression, and how this can affect our mood. Let's even talk about what lab works have told us now. Researchers and doctors now believe that low vitamin D may cause depression in women. Low magnesium may cause anxiety. Low blood counts leading to anemia may cause burnout, like fatigue, which may then cause emotional irritability. So we can no longer go by what just the textbook tells us. We need to begin to dig deeper and not just when people meet certain criteria for maybe a mental health condition, depression, can we look at other biological factors? I'm not saying we can't still treat as psychiatrists, as psychologists, but we need to look at other biological factors that may be influencing this and treat from that so that we have a holistic picture. Maybe I'll come back and talk about the psychological factor later. I want to talk about the unconscious mind and how our repressed feelings, hidden memories, all sort of impact on our psychological and emotional well-being. But I can come back and talk about that later. Thank you.
All right, thank you so very much. And one thing I appreciate with this conversation is the fact that you're vulnerable with us. Thank you so very much for being vulnerable with us, because you had also shown us by this that it's something that is relatable, not just to everybody out there, but even to you as an individual. You were able to go through that, and then you were able to also navigate that, so you can understand from not just the textbook knowledge, but from experiencing it firsthand, what it is that you actually went through. Thank you so very much. We appreciate that. Okay, so quickly, I'm going to go back to Dr. Halade, and she's going to tell us, yes, how do we know when we draw the line? There are still questions that you would answer, but this one, now then we now come back and then you talk about the psychological dimensions. How do we know when, because you said know the feeling to act on, know the feeling not to act on. And sometimes it just gets blurry. It really gets blurry. How do we know? Thank you, Dr. Lalade.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Akintoyeshi, for that. So, this is about women's emotional stability. We just have to be as practical as possible. And I want to appreciate Dr. Mrs. Busola from where she started from, being as practical as much as possible. So the thing is, we need to be able to, as an individual, we need to be able to identify how to draw the line, like you have rightly said. And there are some things that I would want people to know so that we know where to draw the line. The first thing that we need to know is that life can be very unpredictable. There are days that your car will break down, your child can get sick, you may miss a deadline at work, your boss can shout at you. All of those things can happen. Those are things that we need to be prepared for every day. So, I mean, if you are prepared for unpredictability of life in those instances, it helps you to be able to know, because there is some sort of preparation that you have made ahead of some of these eventualities. It makes it easy for you to be able to know that, okay, yes, life is unpredictable. This could actually happen. So let me take it slow. Let me see how I can manage all of this. And then another thing is, you should know that you cannot always be a superwoman. Are we talking about this because we expect that women should not act on their emotions? No, there are days that you would act on your emotions. When someone offends you, you are expected to get angry. We are not talking about you suppressing your emotions. That's not what we are talking about. Because you are looking at it that how to draw the line is as if there's a perfect box somewhere that you just have to put yourself into that box and everything will be perfect. No, there's no perfect box. We are not saying that women should suppress their feelings. We are not saying you have to suppress your emotions, and that is what will make people to know that you are emotionally stable. No, even expressing your emotions is part of some of the coping skills that someone can show to know that this is someone who is emotionally stable. Then another thing is that we are not born with emotional stability. Emotional stability is a skill that people learn. So people need to know that they can actually learn it. Because if you leave it to chance and you just say, okay, let's just leave it this way, people need to learn how to express this emotional stability in situations that they find themselves. And by the time you are learning it as a skill, over time you are able to know what to do and what not to do. When you are faced with instances, yes, there are instances that it seems as if you acted overboard. But you know, the ability to be able to sit down, checkmate what you have done, and make sure that what you have done is not what is repeated in subsequent instances. So there are skills that can be learned, there are skills that can be discussed with other people. Thank you.
So very much. I think no, it's answered from me. And that is the fact that one, life is unpredictable. And so things may not work out the way you want it to. So when it's not working out, no, you don't have to scream because the day it worked out, you didn't scream too. Okay, so you must be able to understand that and create that balance that is work. And then you cannot always be a superwoman. And you know, the truth is, a lot of times we think we are superheroes. No, we have strong hand, Spider-Man leg, and all of this thing there. And sometimes it's not just possible. Thank you, Dr. Lalade, for that. All right, so Mrs. Buksola, would you just continue with the psychological dimension so that we can wrap up that particular session? Thank you. Unmute yourself, please.
I apologize. I didn't realize that I was on mute, so I just kept on talking. So I said I wanted to talk about the psychological factors and the unconscious mind. You know, for a lot of us, we're not even aware of why we do some of the things that we do, because a lot of our feelings and Eden are sort of repressed in our mind. According to Sigmund Freud, he said that the unconscious mind is the primary source of human behavior, right? And he described it using like the iceberg theory. But the most important part of the mind is the part of the mind that you cannot see. So some of our emotional reactions, we don't even understand where they're coming from. But a lot of it stems from past traumas, past experiences of abuse, emotional neglect. For a child that was neglected emotionally as a child, it's very difficult for that child to understand even the topic we're discussing today, or even as an adult, emotional vulnerability, emotional stability. How do I regulate my emotion when that has never been modeled to me? Right. So I think that we need to begin to have this sort of more educative sessions around understanding the processes of the unconscious mind. And even modern psychological theories have shown us how powerful the mind is, and things that are not easily available to us in the here and now. So a lot of mental health conditions that we see in the long term stems from all of these past traumas that we've all had to deal with. And as we uncover them is when we then begin to understand the great impacts that they've had on us emotionally, psychologically, and and even socially. So even talking about social factors that impact on us, the quality of our relationship with our partners, with our family members, with friends, with colleagues, can influence on our emotional well-being as well. Having a substantial amount of friends that you can open up to, and that is very, very important, because like I said, someone that has been neglected emotionally and does not understand that, they are not emotionally vulnerable, cannot have the quality of relationship with friends and partners as someone who had good emotional well-being. And a lot of women, and I'm sure for a lot of us that are practitioners here, we see this play out over and over and over again. So it's not just about having friends. It's not about how adequate the friends that we have, how many friends we have, but the quality of the relationship. And to have a good social support, you have to be emotionally vulnerable. You have to have a certain amount of people. Like I said, when I was going through my downtown in my pregnancy, the one person that I can relate to, and that quality of relationship was so intense, because my mom, she didn't get it. She was there. She was cooking all the food. She was going in and doing all the right things that she thought that I needed, but that wasn't what I needed. I needed someone who I could open up to, who I could be vulnerable with, who I can say, look, even this baby kicking me right now, I'm not enjoying it. And then they are putting their hands on my stomach saying, oh, you must be feeling good. But in my mind, I'm like, no, I don't feel that way. So I just wanted to finish up on that conversation.
Thank you so very much for that. And I'm sure that a lot of people can relate to some of the things. It might not just be pregnancy, because of some other things also that we have to deal with as women, as mothers, as wives. Okay, so now let's look at what are the signs of poor emotional stability in women. Dr. Lalade, how do you know that emotionally I'm not stable? How do you know that? Yes, you have told us there is no straight line in between what I should react to and what I should not react to. But how do we know that, okay, I'm going out over the board here?
All right, thank you. So, to continue on this conversation about the signs of poor emotional stability. So now, like we have been talking about, a lot of these things that we are saying, they are not, everybody has emotions, and everybody is expected to express these emotions in terms of their feelings. So even some of these poor signs that we talk about, they are things that everybody can express generally. But by the time we talk about them being signs of poor emotional stability, we are now talking about the frequency of these signs that we're talking about, and then the generalizability of these signs. Okay, let's say, for example, one sign of a woman who may be emotionally unstable, we talk about a woman who cries too often. I have to put that word too often, because things can happen and a woman decides, and the best response a woman knows at that point is to cry. Maybe a woman that just lost someone that is dear to her, and the best response to know that she knows at that point is to cry. But when we now talk about in various instances, even in things that you are looking at it that, wow, is crying really the next thing for this woman to do? Let's say, for example, the child just hit the leg on a stool, and maybe some blood starts coming out from that wound, and the woman is crying. And you are seeing these things in different aspects. You are wondering, is something going on? And like Mrs. Busola rightly said, there are psychological basis for all of these things. So it could actually mean that singular event that has happened, there are so many unconscious things that the woman is already activating alongside with that event that is now making her to cry. That is not even just that singular event that is making her to cry, but the other psychological and unconscious processes going on that she's relating to other things. When we talk about a woman that lacks trust in people. So if you feel that someone does not have good intentions towards you and you don't trust the person, that is expected. We don't say that that is a sign of poor emotional stability. But when we now see someone who has suffered from someone who has done something bad to them, and then you now see this person generalizing this lack of trust in all domains, such that everybody is even wondering that what is the problem. That could be a sign of poor emotional stability. Then we also, some women, we see them maybe being too defensive. Even when somebody want, it may even be a positive comment that you want to pass across, but because they already feel that, oh, everybody just wants to say something bad about me. You see somebody being very defensive, and you are wondering, what have I said? And that this person has really reacted or responded to me this way. So that could be another sign. We could also talk about someone who is seeking appraisal all the time, even when they have done something wrong, when they have done something right, rather, when they have done something that they know that it is right. Everybody in their right mind would know that this person is doing well, this person has done something right, but this person is still seeking approval, still looking for people to tell them you are doing this well, you are doing this well. And when they don't get those sort of approval that they want or they desire, they start feeling bad, they start feeling as if they are not doing right, even when it is obvious that what they are doing is right. So when you see some of those things, such persons should start knowing that, okay, is there really something going on? And then we talk about people getting angry easily. We are wondering, okay, what has happened? What is meant to be? What is not meant to be? If someone does something wrong, you get angry. But if it's something that becomes too frequent, gets too easy for you to get angry, even the people are wondering the magnitude of what is done versus the anger that has been shown is two different perspectives. Those are some of the things that will make you wonder, is there something else going on in the unconscious of this woman that we are not aware of, that is making her to relate this way? So these are some of the signs that we look out for. Depending on how situations meet individual, there are different emotions that may be expressed, different feelings that may be expressed. But these are some of the signs that may make us to wonder that something is up somewhere. Thank you.
Thank you. I hope we took notes, because what Dr. Lara they had told us are things that we must be familiar with or quite aware of, that would help us to understand if we are actually balancing it, if we're enjoying that stability that would help us to be able to do well or not. So that if we are not, then there might be a need to begin to seek help, or maybe ask questions, or look for clarifications, or get answers in ways and manner that would help you. There was something she said, the magnitude of what is done versus the display of anger. And sometimes we get there, honestly, we get there. You get there and then you start panting after you have displayed the anger, finish. And then you now start asking yourself, I hope I will not kill myself. I know there will not be any witness in this house this afternoon, but we know we get there. And she's bringing it to our consciousness so that we can understand that we must begin to watch it so that we can begin to do better with it. Now, looking at all of these poor signs that she had talked about, well, what are the consequences on a woman's emotional stability? Does this, Mrs. Busola, does it have any consequence on the emotional stability of a woman?
Okay, absolutely. And I felt like as Dr. Lalade was speaking, I was like, is she in my mind? Because some of the things that I wanted to talk about, she has already touched on them. But I would go into, some areas that I think she did not touch on, thankfully. So I want to talk about decreased productivity. Having emotional instability can impair on our concentration, and then our decision making and judgment making faculty can be impaired. It becomes very difficult to complete tasks. And these are some things, this is one of the signs and deviates from the norm that is expected, that activities that you would find easily to do, tasks that you easily complete in a short amount of time, you'll be struggling with it. So there will be reduced productivity, whether at work, whether at school. Another sign could be absenteeism. Again, what is important is a deviate from the norm. If this is someone that from the beginning of their career or whatever, they're always absent for one reason or another, they're always late, then that's not what we're talking about. What is important to us as clinicians is that deviate from the norm. So women tend to experience emotional instability, may be more likely to miss work, may be more likely to turn up late at work, dropping off their kids in school as well, sometimes late because they're just so exhausted. It has implications on our career. And it may hinder, career advancements and opportunity, which may lead to decreased job satisfaction or frequent job changes as well. Another thing that we're seeing more is stress-related illnesses as a result of this emotional instability. For example, a friend of mine had been down with flu and cold over the last few days, and we were talking and she was like, look, I'm having a low mood. And I said, look, even the fact that your body, your physiological isn't well can impact on your emotional instability. And I can relate to that as well, and it was easy for me to talk to her about it. But we're looking at even more chronic emotional instability that can lead to, illnesses such as hypertension, cardiovascular diseases. And we're seeing that research is now coming out and showing us that there's a link between prolonged stress, burnout, and some of the biological illnesses that we're seeing. Sleep disturbance as well, emotional turmoil may distract our sleep patterns, leading to insomnia, poor quality of sleep, as well. Then some people will engage in risky behaviors, so emotional instability may lead us to engage in behaviors that is not normal to us as a result of us trying to cope. Some women will start to use they start to abuse substance. We're seeing that a lot of women, people are coming in now having edibles, and these edibles contain, psychoactive substance. Binge eating as well, eating extremely too much, or some people will eat less. There will be more self-harm behavior as well, risky sexual behavior, trying to numb out their feelings. They engage in all of this risky behavior. It also has financial implication. Impulsive spending, retail therapy. I've done it once or twice, but I know that if I'm being true to myself, I'm just trying to make myself feel better, but this, for someone who has a prolonged emotional instability, they'll run into debt as a result of this. It also impacts on our self-esteem, our self-confidence, our self-worth, and negative self-perception. The way you see yourself tends to be in the negative and not good enough. Self-sabotaging, we'll be saying, I'm not good enough. I'm never going to amount to anything. Life is always going to be like this, and so on and so forth. So, just those decreased productivity, stress-related illnesses, risky behavior, negative self-perception, these are a big red flag for someone to seek. I would say at this point, yes, it's good to talk to family and friends, but at this point, once you start seeing it and it's going for more than a period of 2 weeks, it's time for you to seek professional help.
Thank you. I want to just ask a quick question on behalf of all of us. Now, if you start craving for ice cream, and you want them to put chocolate and other things there, or you start craving for chocolate, is there a problem? No, just whisper the answer, so I would know if I'm in that category or not.
Dr. Akintoye, I love my ice cream. I love my pistachio ice cream. Having these things from time to time, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. But if it becomes a pattern whereby you can tell that you're not feeling your best, there's, your mood is sort of just not the usual. And then the next thing you're thinking of is, or you're repeatedly going to the fridge, just opening up your fridge, looking and taking everything, then of course, like I said, it's a spectrum, right? And we need to just watch out for how often is this occurring, how many days into me just eating and eating and eating. If you're going on for a period of 3, 4, 5 days and it deviates from what is normal to you, then it's time to do some reflective work and do something about it.
Okay, thank you. I'll see Dr. Lala day after now, so that she'll be able to, because it's obvious that we're coping with a lot of things. We're dealing with quite a lot of things, and We're trying to find a balance. And I think that's why this particular conversation is very, very important, so that everybody can see how to. Now, earlier on, you talked about trauma, childhood trauma, among other things. Now, we still look at biases, because there are issues that had repressed, suppressed, and pushed us down in so many ways. And we also look at so many distresses. Now, we talk about financial distress, we talk about family distress, and quite an area of things. And it's really, really affecting a lot of people out there. But like she had said, there's so many things to all of these things that you're hearing this afternoon. And if it's affecting you one way or the other, then there's a need to begin to see, how can we create a balance? And truthfully, Dr. Lalade is here to talk to us. How do we now begin to cope with all of those things? Looking at the biases, the trauma, the hormonal changes. There's so many things that we have to balance. I know women who 2-3 days before their menstrual cycle, they are down, they are irritable, they are just on the edge. How do we create a balance so that they will not snap out and then destroy a whole lot of things? Over to you, Dr. Lalade.
Yeah, all right. Thank you. So to cope with some of these emotions that we can experience, and how do we want to balance all of these things? The first thing is, like I said earlier, express your emotions. You are allowed to express your emotions, because as it has been said, sometimes some of these emotions, when they are left to hang, they are the ones that are suppressed, and then they come up later, and they are causing problems for us later on, because we suppress them at the time when we're supposed to express them. So express your emotions as much as you can. At times when you need to express your emotions, express them. But Mrs. Busola mentioned something about having someone that you are vulnerable with, that could be there to let you know that, okay, it's time to put an end to this. It's time to not do this one again. And the thing is that you need to recognize your stressors. What are the things that can trigger some emotional outbursts in you? The truth is, a lot of us, we know the things that can trigger some of outbursts in us. You know the things that your colleagues at work can do that can make you angry, that can make you vexed, like we used to say. You know the things that your children can do that can make you angry. You know the things that your partner can do, and you'll be like, what is this person doing? Why is this person doing this? And you are expressing all of those negative emotions here and there. So there are some of those things that we know. So we should be able to recognize them and know how to walk away from them. That would also help us to be able to cope better with all of these things. Another thing is, we should find activities that can calm us down. When I was thinking about these coping skills, when I got to the point of, okay, find out activities that calm you down, the funny thing is that the first thing that actually came to my mind was to take ice cream, because I didn't know that Dr. Kemi was also going to mention that, because that's also for me too. Sometimes when I'm just like, oh, where is all the emotions are going up here and there, I just want to take a chilled bowl of ice cream. But with present economic situation, some people may be like, where will I get money for ice cream? But some people have discovered that taking a walk can actually help them. Sometimes some people feel that they want to be alone, but you should be someone that you know that you have been able to know how to handle being alone very well. So some people want to be alone, some people just want to take a walk, some people just want someone they can actually vent to, that can understand them. They just want a partner they can vent to, that can understand them, or their friends. So you need to be able to identify the things that can calm you down and know when to ask for help. Like I mentioned earlier, we're not superwoman. Know when to ask for help. If you are someone that your children getting late to school is something that triggers your anger, makes you angry, then you can, if you need help in getting them prepared for school so that they won't get late to school, and that aspect of getting angry is sorted out, you look at it that like that. Another thing is, you always try to look at things from different perspectives. you know, there was an incident that happened. There was a time my son, I got a call from my son's school that he fell and he hit his head. When they called me from the school, I didn't really know what to say. Like, I just said, okay, okay. Even me myself, I was wondering what happened. So when I told my husband that, this was what they called me from the school, my husband was like, what did you do? Did you tell them that what they did was wrong? Did you tell them? I was like, I didn't even know what to say. I just kept quiet. So 2 days later, that at home, my son was playing at home, and then he just bumped his head, and then he had one swelling on the head. And I just laughed that if I just started shouting at the teachers, why did you do this? Why did you do that? Here it is now happening right there under my own nose. I'm not saying that I'm trying to excuse what they have done, but sometimes when you look at it that, okay, was it what happened? Was there something else that was happening at that point? Children play. Is there something, is it really something that could have been avoided? So trying to look at things at different perspectives. You are looking at it that my boyfriend has not called me since morning. Have you tried to look at it at a different perspective, especially if it is not something that is common with that person? Have you tried to look at it in that way that it's possible that something is going on that I need to check up on? So looking at it from different perspectives. Then another thing is have things moving for you. A lot of times the reason why people get stuck in some form of this emotional instability is because they have their life revolving around one thing. Some people, their life revolves around their job. So if something is going wrong with that job, automatically everything about them becomes affected. So you need to be able to have other things working for you. If you get to work and your boss has rubbished everything that you have done, your boss has talked down on you, if you're like, you need to be able to look at, have other things that can actually make you happy. Is it another colleague at work that you can just gist about it with, or is it somewhere else that you can go later in the evening? Even in terms of religious activities, this is Busola mentioned spiritual aspect earlier. Religious activities, are there religious activities that you feel that when you engage in them, they take your mind off all of these things and they help you to be able to cope better? So get things moving for you. Don't let your life revolve around one particular thing. And always check your expectations, because really, if you are, as I mentioned earlier, life can be unpredictable. So check your expectations. Make allowances for the fact that things can go wrong. Like we are having this meeting now, my network can go up. I should make allowance for that in my brain, that this network can go up. It's not that because when the network now goes up, because I was not prepared for it, I just get angry, I get home, I become moody, I'm not talking to anybody because I'm just angry that network did not allow me to enjoy this Yaba Voice program that they invited me to today. So we need to manage our expectations, check our expectations. We should always know that things can go wrong. There are a lot of things that can be done there are a lot of things that we can look at. We can also listen to different people, how they have been able to manage one or two issues that they have encountered, how they have also coped in some of those instances. And that way, we are on our road to being emotionally stable as women. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. So I have partners in ice cream. So maybe she will not even solve my problem because maybe she will not solve my problem. She may be adding to my problem. So maybe I will not come and meet you. I may have to be referred to somebody else at the end of the day who would not help me with this ice cream. Because I noticed that, yes, no, I just want to see the dark chocolate and the whites on top of it, so that when I scoop it in, that way I will calm down. No stress, no nothing. MD, so if I'm stressed, if I tell you I'm stressed, the next time, sir, you will know that this is what can calm me down. Thank you so much, sir. All right, so what Ms. Alalade, Dr. Mrs. Alalade had talked to us today, the very germane thing. And I can see comments coming in. People are reacting to that. Oluwaton Babarisa said, don't suppress your emotion. And she mentioned that. So you ought to be able to express them. And what she had said is we must be able to express them in a way that is logical and that will not take us out of balance. Yes. Tiwatayo Lashibi says, excellent point. Thank you. Ude Flores says, don't bottle up. One of the problems we have is we bottle it up. We bottle it up until it gets to the point where it starts evaporating and it causes a whole lot of problem. And that says identifying your stressors and developing coping mechanism is invaluable to maintaining emotional stability. Thank you, Ada, for taking that away with you from this webinar today. Olamide says, don't pop to the coordinators of this session. Subsequent sessions like this is needed. It will help women to be conscious and manage their emotions very well. Yes, thank you so much. We hope that we'll be able to build up on this effectively. Dr. Adigbaju, thank you too. Funke Arogudade, thank you too. Oyedi, thank you. She said this is really an eye opener. Thank you so much. We need to be able to go away from here and then begin to do so very much. But Mrs. Busola still wants to talk to us on, now this year's theme is Inspire Inclusion. Now we know that sometimes we ourselves, we are the one that push ourselves down. It is not that anybody is pushing us down. It is not like society or anything. How can we move away from here so that we can begin to be champions in our place? Yes, not as super women, but again, at least be in our place, value, appreciate ourselves, and know that you are better because you are just who you are. Over to you, Mr. Love.
Thank you so much. I wanted to touch on something that Dr. Mrs. Alalade spoke about, where she said that have things working for you as a woman, that independence, it's very empowering. She said, don't allow your life to revolve around one single person or issue. And if we know anything about women in our climb, one thing that we do so well, maybe as married woman, as a married woman, as a sister, whatever it is, we tend to hold on so tightly that we don't even see alternative into living a holistic and more fulfilling life. And we know that as individuals, just whatever gender you are, we are created for so much more. So it's important to have, if one thing isn't working, that we are flexible enough to look at other aspects of life that may work in our favor. It could even be diverse things. So when she touched on that, I was like, that's something that I'm always trying to tell a lot of women. And again, I can relate to that. So one way to inspire inclusion and foster emotional stability in women, we need to continue the conversations, as some people have already started to put the comments on the page. We need to have more training on unconscious bias. A lot of people don't know why they are the way they are. A lot of people don't even understand to fully, but having this sort of conversation opens our eyes to begin to do our own individual research into what are the unconscious processes, what are things that have suppressed in my mind, what are things that I've observed in childhood that, maybe or may not be right, that I need to let go of and welcome the new, So we need to offer more training sessions on recognizing and addressing unconscious biases. We need to focus on inclusivity and diversity, especially during Women's International Day, as we're doing today. We need to also create more safe spaces for women. I grew up in Ireland, and so my brother had a learning disability. And I know that one thing that helped us as a family, not just my mom, was that we had a community whereby he could easily go to. And, it was a community of women, mothers, and their children with learning disability. That's something that I see that we struggle to have in Nigeria. So we need to have safe spaces in different dimensions, whether it's, and I know there are bits and pieces here, but how are these things sustained over time? They're not, so we need to have safe spaces for women, support groups, emphasizing empowerment, solidarity, and also just having that warm embrace around one another. We need to have educational campaigns, launch educational campaigns leading to International Women's Day. We can still do more, even in the next week, of how we raise awareness about gender equality and inclusion. And then women leadership programs as well. I know that we do a lot, but I've also traveled to some parts of Nigeria where a lot of people are not even aware of the magnitude of things that is happening in Lagos. So Lagos is the center where a lot of work has been done. But when we look at other parts of Nigeria, a lot of work has not been done on that. And we for example, NACP, we have a platform. We have different subgroups in different states. But I think we need to carry the campaign beyond Lagos into other parts of the country, so that, everybody, that inclusion is reaching far and near. you know, and I'm sure with Yaba Voices, there are people, I think when the MD started, he talked about people outside of Nigeria, but, you know, how are we taking the data so that we ensure that these things are actually reaching the places that they need to reach? Yeah, so a lot of educational campaign.
Thank you.
Wow.
Let me cut you here. Thank you so
You're
much.
most welcome.
You have said so much, and it's very germane. And one thing I have noted here is welcome the new. Welcoming the new is important. A lot of people are so rigid that they want to stay in one place. You can't remain in one place and then expect yourself to either be included or to be able to diversify. So you must welcome the new so that you can become better at what you're doing. But we have some questions on the chat box. I want Dr. Alalade to quickly take this for us. Now, when does over-spirituality becomes an indication of emotional instability? At what point do you draw the line? Quickly, let's answer that, ma'am.
Okay, so from the question, thank you very much for asking the question. So from the question, it has already even highlighted where the problem is over spirituality. So because when we're talking about spirituality, we're saying that someone is using it, someone like the safe space that Mrs. Busola mentioned, someone's safe space might be going for choir rehearsals, going for prayer meetings, or going for other religious gatherings. But you know, when you talk about over spirituality, people are already qualifying it that this is already excess. And then another thing I want to bring on board is if we are looking at somebody that is getting angry easily, and this person is now deciding that, okay, let me just go to church. Maybe when I get to church, I will be able to forget about it. But even right there in church, people in church are already describing you as someone who gets angry easily. Or people right there in the mosque are already describing this person as someone who gets angry easily. Already you know that even that coping mechanism is not working for you. So you will be able to those are some of the things. When people already qualify it as this is over spirituality, or even people in that place that you are going to are already seeing those signs that you think you are trying to cope with by running into that place, then those are signs of poor emotional stability.
Thank you so very much. Mrs. Busola, please, can you just look at this for us? How can women balance being pregnant and the workload at the workplace? So how did you cope? How can we balance it?
Okay. Don't follow my direction. I honestly just left the work. I literally could not cope. And that's it. So I am very self-aware, you know, and once something exceeds and people around me, I'm sure Dr. Lalade is smiling a little bit if I cannot cope. And her husband will tell you the same thing. If I cannot cope with something, I would just, I would leave. And I understand that not everyone has the luxury to do that, you know, but for me, what's the point of trying to forge ahead and doing something that won't be as productive? So it starts with self-awareness. How much can an individual handle? How much can you cope with? Because all of these things have devastating effects. Like I said, being exposed to stress in the long term leads to burnout. And we now know that burnout has strong indication, you know, for some biological issues, some psychological issues, and some social issues. So it's looking at how we can use one technique. I always say to people, maybe you can look at for example, time management. How well are you managing your time? How well are you able to be vulnerable and go and ask for help? I'm pregnant and I am just finding it very difficult. It's taking a toll on me. Can you go and speak to your manager? And when people come, and we've had clients from time to time who would have the similar issues, would give them the different options. Like Mrs. Alala, they said, don't look at just one thing. Look at the different aspects of issues. Look at the different alternatives so that you can decide for yourself. And if all else fails, choose yourself. Choose your well-being. You know, that's what I would say. I'm here. Can anybody hear her?
Thank you so very much. Thank you so very much. All right. That's germane and very important. Okay, so another question, Dr. Lalade, please take this. Going back to the signs of EI, it tends towards negativity? What of people that are too good, too nice, wanting to please people at the detriment of their own peace? And when they don't get the same energy, they react, but they don't learn and still repeat the process. Is this not emotional instability? I feel learning from your experience and adjusting going forward is a sign of emotional stability. Can you just quickly answer that, ma'am?
Okay, so thank you very much. That was actually one of the things I mentioned earlier when I was talking about the 4 signs of emotional stability. I mentioned seeking approval. So those are maybe when people are trying to seek approval from others, you want people to be able to tell you that what you have done is good or not, even when it is already obvious that what you have done is good. So that is actually, you're actually very right. What you have mentioned is actually also a sign of poor emotional stability. And like you said, it's something that that individuals need to work on, because you don't, at every point in time, everybody needs to know that not everybody will like you. I remember I had one issue at my place of work last year, and it really got me because I had an issue with a senior colleague, and it was that was just one of my consultants just told me, see, not everybody can like you, so just let this issue go and let it pass. This person does not want to have anything to do with you, so just leave it. There is really nothing much you can do, because every effort you are doing is making it worse. So we need to be able to get to that point rather than seeking approval for everything that we do, and that would help us moving forward.
Thank you so very much for that response. Professor Elinor Shilowo, thank you so very much, ma'am. Thank you so much. Canon Olabode Daramola, yes, thank you. Thank you so very much. We appreciate you. Mrs. Oye, thank you. A lot of people are here. Dr. Lala De Obatome, thank you so very much. No, thank you so very much, everyone, for Professor Badrio. Thank you so much. No, thank you so much for the positive feedback and comments from this webinar this afternoon. We hope we will have something building on this subsequently, so that we can begin to look at these issues. Now, it's a time to begin to open up this more, so that people can come out and be more vulnerable. People can also understand that their experience is sometimes not just unique to you. Like I found out now, they have criminals who also use ice cream to just and we are just there in our own world. You would think you are the only one going through that problem. You will not know that you have a lot of people in your cohorts. No, but again, if we talk about this, we will understand. And like Mr. Ola Muyiwa talks about safe spaces, I think it's also something that we begin to look at, even as an institution. The medical director is here. I know we begin to look at these safe spaces where people can come and be vulnerable, talk about it, and they just go back on their own, and then they are able to function. Thank you so very much, everyone, for being on this call. Dr. Adegbaju, thank you. Your comment is noted. Thank you, everyone. I can't read. It's coming in too fast. I can't retake everything. But thank you so very much. We appreciate you. Dr. Mustafa Sombe, thank you. Thank you for inviting the Catholic women to be a part of this too. We appreciate you so very much. Yes, the recording is going to be on the YouTube page of the Yaba Voice. I want to plead. Now, a lot of people watch and then they don't subscribe. Please subscribe. Then help us share so that other people can also be a part of this. One of the things that we had said is the fact that people in the rural places cannot see this, but let them do what you do. So share it with other people. That would help us to be able to it's able to get a lot of people to be able to watch this and flow with it too. It's free. Just subscribe and then you're good to go. You could go to the Yaba page, FMPHY, Yaba Voice FMPHY on YouTube. That's where you will find us. And then you can also get past recordings of the Yaba Voice webinars there, and then you'll be able to do that. Now, let me quickly share something with us. A young man started out by giving out 1 naira, 2,000, 3,000 naira to bet. And then eventually he was making the money. But it got to a point in time, the money wasn't coming forth as he wanted to. Now it became a problem for this young man. But please ask me, what did this young man do? I won't tell you today. You look forward to next month. We'll be looking at gambling addiction next month. Oh, yes, you heard about that man also, who was given 1.5 million to start a business, and he wanted to double it, and then he went to the betting slot. But what happened to him? I will tell you what happened to him next month. So we'll see you again next month by the grace of God, when we'll look at gambling addiction, the implication and the solution. It's becoming very permanent in our world now, but we need to see how can we change the narrative. And so until we'll come your way again next month, on behalf of the medical director, Dr. Olubenga Adekile Owoye, and every member of the Yaba Voice, I want to say thank you for being on this call with us. To our speakers, thank you so very much. We'd love to have you one more time again. Thank you so very much. Have a lovely day. Please take care of your mental health. Bye.